Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Mike with Simple Freedom with Mike, and I told you that we were going to start doing some new stuff on this channel to make it interesting. And we all know what's coming up in November. The 2020 presidential election is coming. And obviously, you know, 2020 has been absolutely insane with coronavirus, racial injustice, all that stuff going on with the Black Lives Matter movement, and more. I mean, 2020 has been crazy, and I'm going to try to keep my election predictions. I'm not. Well, what I should say is I'm going to try not to be partisan. Okay, I have my views on things, but I want to make presidential elections and go by the data. And also throw in what I think is going to happen, and more. We all know that the polls can be wrong. We seen 2016, but I'm going to take a look at the 2016 polls with you and show you that they weren't all that wrong. I think the mainstream media was a little bit too optimistic about Hillary Clinton, but we all know Hillary Clinton was a flawed candidate. Joe Biden, he has his flaws, but he is nowhere near the flawed candidate that Hillary Clinton was, okay? So the 270 to win, I've kind of got, right now, the toss-up states, I've got, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona. I know Texas is, there's been some polls saying Biden's up and this and that. Texas is not going to turn blue this time around. Now, 4 years from now, that could change. But as of right now, Texas is not going to turn blue. The number one state that I think is going to turn blue this time around is Arizona. And why do I think Arizona is going to turn blue? Is because Martha McSally running in Arizona is a flawed candidate, okay? And we've all seen the polls. Kelly is trouncing her. Mark Kelly is trouncing her in all of the polls. And people that support Mark Kelly also support Joe Biden. And we've seen, the trend. I mean, if we go back to 2016, I mean, Hillary Clinton only lost in this state by, 3 or 4 points, I think? So that is one of the main surprises that I see happening in the 2020 election. Another flip, obviously, I think Michigan is going to flip. And why do I think it's going to flip? Is because Donald Trump has pulled all advertising out of Michigan. All advertising. And when you pull all your ads out of a state, you know that it's not looking good. And we've seen the polls. I mean, on average, I think Joe is up 8 points. We'll look at the polls here in a second. But he has pulled all of his advertising from Michigan, and that is not a good sign for the president. One state that I've seen polls for Joe that have him leading, but one state I still think is going to be red is Ohio. I'm going to make that, a lean Republican. Just because I live in Kentucky, and I live in northern Kentucky, I'm not that far away from Cincinnati. Obviously Joe's got his supporters, but I just don't see Ohio turning blue. I think Trump holds on to Ohio, and maybe in the next 4 years we could see something different. But I see Ohio just going more and more towards a lean Republican state. I don't really even think it's a toss-up anymore. Now, if Biden could surprise us and win it, but I just don't see it happening. Georgia, I think, stays with the president. I think he will carry the state. I think it's going to be close. I think if Biden would have picked Stacey Abrams, I think they would have, a better chance. But it looks like he's going to pick Kamala Harris, which I have my own opinions about that. And I'll talk about that on a later video. But I just don't see Georgia going to Biden this time. North Carolina is an interesting one. And I'm not even going to make a prediction on this, okay? North Carolina is an interesting one. We know in 2008, Barack Obama won North Carolina. So I want to say that Trump holds on to Carolina, but I just don't know. There's a lot of African American vote in North Carolina. The African American vote in North Carolina was way down in 2016, and we see how pumped up they are right now to vote for Joe Biden. So I really can't make a characteristic on that, so I'm going to leave it as I just can't. It's going to be a toss-up. I can't make a prediction on it. Florida, that's another interesting one. I don't know. I'm going to leave that as a toss-up. I think Pennsylvania goes to Biden. I think he takes it back. I mean, that's enough right there, basically, to win the election. But I don't know. Wisconsin's another one. I want to say that Biden wins it, but it really, I don't know. We have to take a look at the polls, once election day gets here, or the day before, or even election day, and we'll take a look at it. Just right there, Biden wins it. I mean, Florida, can be picked up by the president. He could win North Carolina. And even he could win Wisconsin, and he still falls short because I think Arizona is going to flip toward the Democrats. Let's say, he wins Nevada because, even if he wins Nevada, because we've seen some data that shows it a very, very tight race in Nevada, he still loses. We can give him the district, we can give him Nebraska, we can give him Maine, and he still loses 270 to 268. We can get, well, not necessarily Maine, but even if we gave him New Hampshire, and Maine stayed blue, he still loses. So, there's so many ways for Biden to win this election. And let's take a look at the polls. The polls are tightening. One of the last polls only had Biden up 4. But if you look at the average, it's 7.4. So nearly an 8-point spread for Biden in the election, in the national vote. Obviously, I think Biden's going to win the popular vote, but it comes down to the toss-up states. It really does. It comes down to the toss-up states. And if we look at Pennsylvania, the last poll had Biden up 9. So let's take a look at that. So it's a 6-point spread in Pennsylvania. Okay, let's go to Michigan. Okay, Biden's up 7.8 in Michigan in 2016. This is why I say that you have to be careful about the prediction. The polls. Because if you go back to 2016, Clinton was up 3.4, but as you can see, she had a 3.4 average lead. But Biden right now has a 7, or actually, yeah. So this is Michigan, 7.8, almost 8-point spread. So if that holds, I just don't see Biden losing there. Pennsylvania, he's up 6. North Carolina, he's up 4. If you go back to 2016, I think Trump was up in Carolina. Oh, hold on one second, guys. If you go back to 2016, I think Trump was up in North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. If I can get there. Oh, no. It's going crazy on me. My internet is running really, really slow. Really, really slow right now. So I might not be able to show you this time. But anyway, I just wanted to give you kind of a general idea of what I think is going to happen in the election. And as of right now, honestly, I can go back and I'm going to put Nevada as blue. And I'm going to put, that's basically it. I think New Hampshire stays blue. I think Wisconsin, I think it leans Democrat. And let's just say he wins there, and then Trump wins Arizona. I mean, Trump still loses, so it's anybody's ball game. But I just think Biden has the edge right now, and we'll see what happens. Come November 3rd. But as you can see there, we went back to the North Carolina. If you go back, hold on one second. Going crazy. My thing's going crazy. Let's get back to North Carolina. Okay, so you have Biden up 4.7, all right, in North Carolina. If you go back to 2016, Trump was up by 1 point in North Carolina, okay? The average, that is. He ended up winning by 3.7. So the polls in general in 2016 were not that off. I mean, honestly, they weren't. Let's say Wisconsin. Okay, Wisconsin. Okay, the average spread for Biden right now is 5 points. Let's go back to 2016. Okay, so here we have a poll that was way off, and I will admit that. Look, 6.5 was the average for Hillary Clinton. And then Trump ended up winning it by 0.7. So that's why you got to, Wisconsin is a tough one. It really is. It is a tough one. But even if I go to Arizona, right? Arizona, Biden's up 3.7 right now on the average. Now let's go back to 2016. Trump was up by 4 points, and he ended up winning it by basically 4 points. So the polls in general were not that off. They really weren't. There was a couple. Wisconsin was off. I think, I don't know. I really don't, Florida right now. I mean, Biden's up big in Florida. He's up 6.2. And if you go back to 2016 and look at the average, I think Trump was up. Trump was up by barely. But he ended up winning it by 1.2. So, I mean, you see, the polls weren't that off. I mean, yes, you had instances where the polls were shaky, but they weren't that off. And then, the average was, Clinton was up by like 3 points, and she ended up winning the popular vote by 3 million, almost 3 million votes. So she lost the election by less than 100,000 votes, guys, in 3 states. 3 states combined. Less than 100,000 votes. Okay? Wisconsin alone, she only lost by like 20-something thousand. Michigan, she only lost by like 12-something thousand. So, and Hillary Clinton was a flawed candidate. Joe Biden is nowhere near the flawed candidate that Hillary Clinton was. But it's anybody's ballgame. In my opinion, can Trump still surprise us? Absolutely. It's Donald Trump. And I do believe that there is secret Trump voters out there. So you got to take that into account. Don't believe the polls. If you want to, you got to make sure you vote. Vote for whoever you're for. So I'm going to get off here, guys. I just wanted to kind of do this. We're going to start doing this a little bit more often. Sorry, I'm a little shaky on this right now because this is my first kind of election prediction. I'll get better at it. But anyway, check out my other videos. I just did one on $25 cash machine where you can earn unlimited $25 commissions. It's a no-brainer, especially if you're struggling right now with the coronavirus, don't have a job. It's $25 one time. It's yours, and you earn $25 commissions when you resell it. So, all right, guys, have a good one. Take care.